Welcome into the CHGO White Sox podcast, coming to you live from Studio A of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, the full CHGO White Sox crew. That is Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. You can read his work at allchgo.com. The man in the middle is Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
Our CHGO White Sox community leader. You can follow him at EctorWall23. I am Sean Anderson. I think I said that already. We're being produced today by Sarah.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome back. Hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. And we appreciate everyone hanging out with us in the chat. Today, we'll be talking about Bob Nightengale's recent report about the 3 finalists for the White Sox managerial job. According to Bob, it is down to Will Nevin.
Or Phil Nevin.
There you go. Will Venable, Phil Nevin, and Craig Albernaz. So long to Grady Sizemore for now. Maybe he'll be a part of the coaching staff. We will see. But according to Bob, Sizemore is out. We'll also talk about the end to Colson Montgomery's 2024 Arizona Fall League stint, and then we'll answer some diehard questions from our CHGO Discord. How you guys doing? And also, Herb, I was dead wrong about them Yankees.
Hey,
Mercy.
Man. I don't know what's going on. Like, they have turned into a team that doesn't belong in the World Series. Like, this, as I put last night, the White Sox could have done what the Yankees are doing. And somebody tweeted back, and I think it was Jesse Spector's like, in the 3 games the White Sox did play versus the Dodgers, they lost all 3 of them. I think they lost 11-3. In these 3 games, while the Yankees have acquitted themselves a little bit better, I think it's 14-5, they haven't played well at all. And the MVP of the American League is persona non grata and Aaron Judge. He must be hurt or something else, because it's just an embarrassment in the World Series to play like this. I'm mad that the San Diego Padres didn't beat the Dodgers, because obviously the road was paid to the World Series. The Dodgers are doing this with glue. And Freddie Freeman being the best World Series player of all time. Goodness gracious.
Truly. I mean, they have literally all the hurt players doing everything for them. I didn't think Yamamoto would be this good. He was great in game 2. I didn't think Walker Buehler would be this good. He was great last night. And then you can't even pitch to Freddie Freeman.
No.
So there you go. And they got him on a steal. They spent $162 million, and that's probably under market value. So there you go.
And he wouldn't be playing if he wasn't Freddie Freeman and just power through an ankle that's supposed to be still having him out. He's probably going to have surgery after the season, and he's still doing work.
Yeah, having surgery, looking at his ring, being like, man, I put in some work this year.
And become a legend.
Became a legend. Let's jump into Bob Nightengale's report. It was a lengthy one. Bob Nightengale had a lot of information to give out, not only on the Chicago White Sox, but also the Miami Marlins. A situation we're seeing develop. Maybe the White Sox and Marlins could be offering the same job to the same people, and we will see if the White Sox or Miami is more appealing. Per Bob, the Chicago White Sox and Miami Marlins could find themselves in a battle over the same managerial candidates. The White Sox 3 finalists for the managerial vacancy are Texas Rangers associate manager Will Venable, former Los Angeles Angel manager Phil Nevin, and Cleveland Guardians bench coach Craig Albernaz. Venable and Albernaz are also finalists in Miami, with interviews scheduled this week in Florida, according to the Miami Herald. Both teams would like to have a manager in place by next week's GM meetings. Now, with the World Series seemingly wrapping up, our whole conundrum of if it goes 7 games, the White Sox only have November 4th to announce their manager. If the World Series ends tonight, they have 3 days open up. So is it seeming likely that this week will be the week for the White Sox to have a new manager?
Yeah. I mean, I think I've been saying that a while. Obviously, when I talk about this week, I talk about the next 7 days, right? I mean, the idea that Monday could have been that day right before Chris Getz departed for the GM meetings. But, yeah, I mean, this is going to happen pretty soon. It sure seems like. You got Bob kind of echoing the same thing that we've been talking about a lot. The whole idea that Chris Getz initially set out that timeline of late October, early November to have that manager in place, and the GM meetings kind of looking like that deadline, because you don't really want to move on, or I shouldn't say you don't want to get started on your offseason work without having finished up the manager search, which you need to kind of get done in order to get to the offseason work. You don't really want to be spinning those plates if you don't have to. So I entirely anticipate, I would think it would be very likely that by the time we're talking here a week from today, Election Day, we will have already had a new manager announced and introduced.
The thing is, like, if the Miami Marlins have those interviews scheduled with both Albernaz and with Will Venable, I think about the football thing where if you have somebody in the building, they usually don't let you out if you're the guy that they want. They keep you in the building and get to your terms. So if I were the White Sox, if knowing that the Miami Marlins have scheduled interviews with the two candidates maybe that you want, interview or have a scheduled interview before those guys get a chance to go on Miami, and don't let them leave Chicago without signing one of those guys or the guy that you want, because it's tough with they have that interview in Miami and they see the beautiful weather. It's November or October.
Beautiful weather's out right outside the window here, Herb.
It's
80 degrees today.
It is, but it's Chicago and it might change. So you want to just not have them like, oh man, Miami's great. The vibe, everything's great. And you don't want them to be like, all right, the Marlins is my thing. And you want to have your final presentation be the one that they're like, all right, there's nothing else to say. Let's schedule the press conference for tomorrow. We're in for that. That's, I think, will be the deciding factor. Whoever gets the last word will have the manager that they want. And if it was my druthers, Will Venable would be my guy, and I'll lock him in the room and make sure that he says yes to my offer. But otherwise, it's tough if Miami's got those interviews scheduled. Nothing on the White Sox front as far as in public, as far as these guys coming in to talk with the White Sox brass.
Yeah, I do wonder, too, like, the whole thing about Will Venable last year was that he turned down the opportunity to interview with the Mets and Guardians. Doesn't seem like he's turned down this opportunity. It seems like if a job is offered to him, if you're going to the final rounds of the Miami job and you are a finalist for the White Sox job, it does seem like Will Venable is likely to leave Texas. Am I far to make that assumption?
Yeah. I mean, there's the big difference between interviewing and wanting out. You know what I mean? I think that it has to be the right fit for him, because he certainly seems to have a good thing going in Dallas, just like he has throughout his career at his other stops. So turning down the Guardians, is one thing, a smaller market, a lower profile. The two teams that are on with the openings right now, both the White Sox and the Marlins, not exactly the highest profile clubs themselves, right? But I think the idea of turning down the Mets with all the resources that they have at their disposal in the bright lights of New York City kind of thing, as they always talk about, I mean, that kind of shows that maybe he is being very picky. And listen, just because it's not the Dodgers or the Yankees or the Braves doesn't mean it's not the right fit for somebody. And I think, we've heard from a lot of the folks that Chris Getz has brought in from outside the organization to work in the front office, how much they've kind of bought into what he's selling. And maybe Chris Getz, the former player, as we keep bringing up, has a way of tapping in to these guys' mindsets a little bit, and convincing them that what he is building is worth the long haul, is worth the commitment. And maybe Will Venable is intrigued by that. I mean, he's in a place that has flashed the big financial commitments to top of the line players and won a World Series. And, maybe he is looking to get his hands dirty and be part of build something that, I mean, guys say that. I'm not just speculating here. You know what I mean? I think you hear that guys say, oh yeah, it would be cool to build something from the ground up. But you got to find the right person, right? I mean, not everybody does want to do that. Some people do. Maybe this is the right fit for him. But I think the White Sox, when it comes to the competition with Miami, I think if you were to pick somebody to compete against, that's probably who you would pick, right? I mean, nothing against that team down there. They've won 2 World Series in my lifetime, but that's a organization for which stability has not been a defining feature over the years. And if you're already talking about playing with limited resources, they kind of do that on a regular basis. So I don't know how attractive past it's a major league managing job the Marlins are compared to the other 29. Mm-hmm. It's not like the White Sox have to compete with, they're going to bring him into the Bronx and he's going to see the, Monument Valley, or what is it called out there? Monument Park. Monument Valley's in Arizona. Monument Park out there, and he's going to be like, the house that Jeter built, how could I turn it down, kind of thing. Or, it's Fenway Park, or, the flashy lights of Hollywood. The White Sox just have to compete with the Miami Marlins. And so I think that is a point in their favor. But, of course, they've got to seal the deal because they've got, as our chat will be quick to remind us, they've got plenty of uphill battle going on when it comes to their own perception as well.
And also, I think they have to approach the Albernaz and Venable negotiations and interviews differently. Albernaz, while probably comfortable in his Cleveland job, looks to be a manager. Like, he probably, more than likely, if one of these teams picks the other, he'll be a manager of the other team. and probably won't be going back to Cleveland. Will Venable, as you were asking, is like, do you think he's a finalist in both these? He's pretty much going to do the jump. He doesn't have to. He's comfortable, and he's the manager in waiting for Bruce Bochy. Now, there's different degrees of when he's going to be taking over when Bruce Bochy retires, and Bruce Bochy is still probably loving baseball. So you probably have to go at Will Venable a different way than you go at Albernaz. Albernaz is like, yes, I'll take a standard Major League Baseball contract for a manager. Now, Will Venable, wanted by both these teams, and can go right back to the Texas Rangers knowing that he has a job in hand when he wants one. Doesn't have to take the White Sox or the Marlins job. Or he can be like Skip Schumacher and said, you guys want me this year, but you two are not the teams I want. So I'll wait next year, and I'll do this again, maybe.
But I don't think we have word that Skip interviewed. I mean, he was a candidate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Skip might have just not have been interested.
Yeah.
I mean, Venable does seem at least interested.
I mean,
at this point, if he doesn't accept the job, I think he's just wasting people's time.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like the White Sox are probably doing interviews just to see if people have information. Maybe not 100% sure on that person that they're interviewing, just to get that data gathering. And this could be also the same thing for Will Venable. He didn't take interviews last year. This year, he's taking interviews, and maybe he sees that the White Sox and the Marlins are not the teams he wants, and he's like, I can take this in my pocket and say, hey, I see what's out there. I appreciate you two teams offering me this job or giving me this opportunity to be the finalist, but I'm comfortable in Texas, and that would signify to me that neither of the teams are serious or at least wooed Will Venable enough for him to get off the job that he's currently on, which promises a job in the future.
And at least for Venable last year, he had a relationship with Mike Chernoff. He was a teammate of Venable's at Princeton, so there was a person he trusted. And Venable said no to the Guardians. So I don't know. I feel like it could be possible. Venable's thoughts on Texas have changed. Spending another year with Bochy possibly could be there for another year or possibly more behind that. And now we have the name Donnie Ecker. Donnie Ecker impressed me, at least, from all the things that he had on his resume. Is it going to be possible that with all of these teams, like the Reds hiring Chris Valleca and the Marlins hiring a director of hitting, like, will director of hitting be a more important role? And maybe will somebody with a hitting background work their way up to become a manager? So maybe it is possible that Venable gets passed up in his own organization. I think if you want to be a manager, you can't be too picky. And especially with the two teams that you turned down, there has to be some sort of regret because the Guardians are a very well-oiled machine. Vogt was able to step in there without any managerial experience, and they were fine. I mean, Carlos Mendoza. I was going to say Carlos Esparza. That's the UFC strawweight fighter, Carla Esparza. Mendoza, like, he stepped in. And they had a rocky start, but they were able to right the ship. And I mean, why wouldn't you go to a team that has Steve Cohen, the billionaire, the eccentric billionaire that just wants to spend all the money to win? Like, it's weird teams to turn down, and it's not even like Cleveland's like a very pressure-filled media market. I think that Venable is going to be a manager of either the Marlins or White Sox. And I think the biggest thing is, can the White Sox actually win him over? If, again, they're able to have Will Venable be their manager, I think it's an absolute coup. There was a ton of reports last year that he was the favorite among tons of executives to be a next manager. Same kind of hype this year as well. It seems like his time to be a manager is coming up, and I do think that he'll be a manager, at least the Marlins or Sox.
Yeah, like I was saying off the air, if the White Sox were to get a manager that was coveted and wanted by multiple organizations, and they win it, that would signify to me that a change is happening. Maybe not as significant as winning baseball games change, but at least they're seen, and Will Venable would be the proof of that, as a better organization than it looks from the outside, from what we can see. A 121-loss team, which we call the organization pretty bad. This could be a way where the wheel is turning and the worm is turning, and we're going in the right direction because Will Venable chose us, even knowing at our lowest point that he can get us back to where we need to be. And he can choose most jobs in Major League Baseball. Could have chose the Marlins job, which to me looks much more attractive to the White Sox. And if the White Sox win that, it's a signify that Chris Getz is doing something right.
We got to take a break. We're going to talk a little bit about Phil Nevin, the other finalist that we haven't talked much about, but we got to take a break and let you know about Ray CDJR.
Adventure is calling. Bring.
Hello?
Answer it this October by shopping new low prices during Jeep Adventure Days. They're going on right now over at Ray, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Stop in today to browse their huge inventory of new vehicles. And right now, shop electric savings, like 0% financing for 72 months on new 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xE and Wrangler 4xE models. Or shop over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. Let the amazing team at Ray CDJR help you during each step of your car shopping journey with Ray's Price Promise. The numbers you're hearing now are the same prices you can expect to shop in-store and online. That's because Ray's Price Promise means no price changing, no add-ons, and no hidden fees. Since they prioritize affordability for their customers, hurry into Ray CDJR today and shop one of the Chicago area's largest inventories. Then drive home with more money in your pocket than you would expect. So if you're in the market for a new vehicle, then you have to check out the team at Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram because they are the only team that we recommend. Visit them today on Route 12 in Fox Lake. For more information, visit Ray CDJR in Fox Lake or raycdjr.com. They've been serving the community since 1963.
Thank you, Vinny. And we want to let you know about our friends over at Empire Today. With Empire Today, you get shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guarantee. Empire Today is the best place to get new flooring, so of course they have copycats. But Empire cannot be beaten on their quality, service, and speed. So competitors advertise low-quality products that Empire simply won't carry. Empire won't promise the lowest prices because anyone who does is putting flooring in your home they wouldn't put in theirs. Empire's philosophy is simple. It's to help you find what you need and not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. What they leave out of their selection is just as important as what they put in. Their product team exhaustively combs through thousands of product samples each year to find the perfect styles, and you can check out those styles with their virtual floor designer. It's a great way to see how new floors will look in any space. It's easy. Just snap a picture and instantly see how new floors will look in your room. So check them out today at empiretoday.com/CHGO for details. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use promo code CHGO. So schedule a free in-home estimate today with our friends over at Empire. Restrictions do apply, but use code CHGO at empiretoday.com/CHGO for your $350 off discount over at Empire Today.
Do you know whose birthday is today?
Cut me off singing? You want me to sing happy birthday
sorry,
now?
go ahead.
588-2300 Empire.
Today.
Whose birthday is it?
It is Will Venable's birthday.
Oh, there you go. Happy
His
birthday,
42nd birthday today. Do you know whose birthday is tomorrow?
Craig Albernaz.
You know how he'll be?
42.
Boom!
Boom. That's weird.
A day apart.
That makes me feel weird.
Yeah.
That's odd.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, good for them.
Wow.
One of them will likely get hired on their birthday.
The stars aligning.
It
The
is.
stars aligning. Ryan.
Both Scorpios like me. Boom.
Boom. Ryan asks, could Will or other candidates be waiting to see what the Yankees possibly do with Boone? Maybe try that for a job. From what I've heard, is Aaron Boone is very, 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 very liked by the front office there, and I don't think that he'll be fired. It's especially tough to make a case to fire him when your star that you paid $300 million has like 2 hits in the entire postseason.
Well, and I would say this too. I mean, I think that was a reasonable wonder when the playoffs began,
Correct.
Right? I mean, the Yankees, they have this, the expectations are so high. If Aaron Boone, again, fails to get them to the World Series, what will happen? But Aaron Boone just won the pennant for a team that hadn't won the pennant since 2009.
Yep.
So I think he's done plenty, well more than enough at this point to maintain his job status there and get off any hot seat. I mean, we were having the same conversation about Dave Roberts, and nobody's going to say that now, that they might sweep away the Yankees in the World Series. The expectation levels make those two jobs very different than most, if not all, the other jobs across baseball. But though the expectations were mostly met. One of those teams is going to win a championship. Both of those teams have a pennant. I think that both of those guys went ahead and showed that they're the right guys for those gigs.
I'm just trying to think. I know Yankees fans have a standard 28 We're 27 now. I'm looking for 28, but they should be happy with how they've finished this season. Yeah, the World Series sucks, but winning a pennant, only one team does that in the American League each year. And as Vinny said, they haven't won one in almost 20 years. Yeah, 15 years exactly. And so, yeah, I think Aaron Boone is safe. He might even get an extension if he hadn't already had one for the Yankees. So, yeah, it's a good – hey, Ryan, and named after a great player too. It's a good question, but yeah, Aaron Boone's safe.
And not only that, the Yankees moving forward, you make a managerial change, you expect that to pay immediate dividends. Their hopes for 2025 and beyond are going to rest on whether they can bring Juan Soto back. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that is the big deal for the Yankees this offseason that will determine their future, their immediate future, way more than a managerial change would.
And honestly, I don't know if it will happen just because this guy's been there forever, but I think it's more likely that Cashman gets fired and then Boone gets fired rather than Cashman getting fired by Boone. It
depends on how much the current Steinbrenners in charge want to be like the old Steinbrenner in charge. Maybe just have a stroke of nostalgia and want to fire everybody all at once.
And here's something: if you do want to have just a normal stroke, you talk about the pennant. Yankee fans will be fine. Here's some things that popped up on my timeline. Yankee fans had to wait 15 years just to see their team get swept in the World Series. I can confidently say that no fan base in sports suffers as much as us, and it's not particularly close. And someone responded by saying, people think it's trolling, but it's literally not. It doesn't apply to the older generation of Yankee fans, but for our generation, literally nobody has suffered more.
Oh, God. The older generation of Yankee fans?
Yeah.
They've won like 5 World Series since I've been alive.
Right.
Yeah.
How old am I?
They have recently won a World Series since my team. Their manager that they're talking about firing has a 58% winning percentage. Shut up. All of you. Shut the hell up.
No one has suffered more.
Well, that one guy, at least.
Yeah.
That one guy is in pain. Don't ask anybody from Cleveland how they feel.
Oh, my God.
Don't ask anybody from San Diego how they feel. Don't ask anyone who's a Detroit Lions fan how they feel. God forbid those teams, suffer more than the Yankees.
The Browns
exist. Yeah, the Browns exist. I mean, they were moved.
Yeah,
and then they got their team back, and they've just been terrible.
Yeah, and they had to pay a terrible quarterback a bunch of money, which they still got to pay that terrible quarterback who's injured a bunch of money after this. So yes, the Browns.
Nasty work. All right, let's get into some more chat. We do have a poll going on, so thank you to our pal Sarah for setting that up. About 20 minutes ago, we set that up, so make sure you're voting. Right now, I believe the answer to our question, who do you want to be the next White Sox manager? Will Venable leads with 69%. In second place is Craig Albernaz and Will Nevin, tied at 15%. Phil Nevin. Why do I keep
Will and twice? You're changing his name.
Yeah. Poor Phil Nevin, who's going to be called Will Nevin by me.
Hey, it's a Freudian slip. You just want Will Venable, and you're going to change all the rest of the people to Will.
Or maybe really Sean wants them both. Co-managers.
Co-managers. I mean, I've thrown out my true wants. I think Justin asked in the chat, who does CHGO want? I won't speak for the entire company. I'll speak for me, exactly. I've laid out my perfect scenario. Will Venable is hired as manager. Yep. Ricky Renteria is brought on as senior associate manager, and Grady is junior associate manager. You got Sam and Jam. Let's go. It's going to be great. I think that's the perfect way that this all plays out. And now Albernaz is taking the lead here. 67% for Venable. Albernaz now at 19%. Not the lead, over Nevin.
Late returns from Cuyahoga County coming in.
Hey, the polls are still open, folks. 27 votes. Venable, a clear landslide here. I think, and Vinny, I don't think you have true feelings. You're just wondering who the next person you'll be interviewing
I'm just here to see what happens.
But at least fan-wise, and speaking for Herb, Will Venable would be by far the person, and I don't even think I'd be upset with Craig Albernaz.
No.
I mean, he seems fine.
Yeah.
He seems like he's coming from an analytical place with the Rays, like a 60% win percentage in the minor leagues when he was a manager. Has seen pretty much every part of Major League Baseball. He's been a player, been a coach, been a bullpen coach, been a catcher coach, has been a pitching coach. Like, the guy's done it all.
Now, if it wasn't Will Venable being his competition, I would have pause if Miami selected Will Venable over Craig Albernaz because of the previous relationship with Peter Bendix, who is the general manager, baseball ops guy in Miami. But it's Will Venable. I would take Will Venable even if I know Craig Albernaz over him because his bona fides, I think, look better as a major league manager, even though I know the person that is Craig Albernaz. So if Craig becomes the White Sox manager, I'll be kind of sad, like, we lost out on Will Venable. But also, this guy's well-traveled, well-liked, has been in organizations that I personally admire in the Rays, the Giants, and the Guardians. I don't know if you can go wrong there with that manager with that type of pedigree. Now, can he lead? I don't know. I mean, he led minor leaguers in the Rays system. Can he lead grown men in a major league system to develop them to be better? that'll be the test for the White Sox.
I mean, that's the job, though, is kind of that middle ground, right? Because this is a rebuild. You're going to be dealing with a lot of guys who were minor leaguers yesterday.
Yeah.
And there is going to be that continued development that goes on at the major league level. To have somebody who has the experience of working on the player development side and succeeding on the player development side, I think is a huge plus when you're the White Sox.
Yes.
I think it'd be a huge plus if you're the Marlins, too, with where they're at. But the idea that, you're going to be managing the Colson Montgomerys and the Edgar Caros, the guys who are not necessarily arriving as finished products, and you're going to try to take that team of young guys and turn them into contender at the major league level. I'm not saying you need to have been a minor league manager to do that, but it's probably a nice little plus on the resume. Another thing with Albernaz and the White Sox specifically that obviously we've mentioned a couple times, but really I think deserves hammering home, Brian Bannister, man. I mean, not just like Donnie Ecker was a guy who worked for the Giants when Brian Bannister worked for the Giants. Albernaz was the bullpen coach.
Yeah.
That means that him and Bannister are working together, part of that pitching program over there. We've heard obviously that Ecker that Ecker had the recommendation of Bannister and of Ethan Katz as well, who had spent time in San Francisco. That was part of that report, is that those guys kind of pushed that a little bit. It really seems to me like Bannister, and I guess we didn't really need offseason proof to make us know this, but really hammering home the impact that Bannister is having on this organization as a whole on the baseball side of things. We heard his name over and over again when it came to the draft, right? That he was involved in that, the amateur draft. Obviously, the work he's doing with the pitchers on a regular basis, both in the major and the minor leagues, but now his name is popping up in the manager search as well. It really seems like he is having a big impact on how things are working in that front office. And, if you are what the situation that Herb presented, so to speak, consolation prize of Craig Albernaz, at least you got a guy who's very in line with one of the most important people in that front office, and that could make a big difference in how he would be as a potential White Sox manager.
And I never really thought about what the point you just brought up about his minor league managing time, where in the minor leagues, your job is not to win games. It's not W's and L's. It's about development of the players, and you have people above you that are giving you direction, and you're trying to get the best out of the player that you have in your system at the time that you're there. It's kind of like what the White Sox are going to be in 2025, maybe even 2026, where wins and losses really don't count next year for the White Sox. I know I'm going to be on this couch or this chair bitching about every loss the White Sox have next year, and I might get into Albernaz and or Will Venable, whoever's the manager of next year.
Or Phil Nevin.
Or Phil Nevin.
Or Phil, don't call me Will Nevin.
Will Nevin.
Yeah.
I might be getting into that. But those wins and losses don't matter. The development is what's going to matter for the White Sox and their brass and you as a fan next year. So that's a good point. Like, he has that experience under the Rays system of just – he has one, and those players have developed and have gone on to the Rays system, and so they can churn like they always do. So, yeah, that's a good point by you, that the White Sox will be very young next year, and they should be all about development. And if there's a guy that can and has experience to develop players, even though it's not at the major league level, it's a good thing to have.
So, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he was in the Rays system for all that lead up to when they eventually won the pennant in 2020. And I mean, obviously they'd been a very good team over many years, but I mean, that's something that you can point to and say there were probably a lot of guys on that roster that spent time with him in the minor leagues.
Yeah. And now I'm getting lost in the Reno Aces. I mean, Archie Bradley is apparently a Phil Nevin product. Does that get you excited? I know we were talking about Craig Albernaz here, but I mean, technically Phil Nevin's a minor league manager.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the Erie Seawolves manager in 2010.
Tigers?
With the Tigers, 66 and 76. Then with the Mud Hens, he went
Toledo.
66 and 77, 60 and 84.
Holy Toledo.
And 61 and 83. And then he went to Reno and went 81 and 63, 70 and 74, and 76 and 76 and 68. So, I mean, like, I don't know. We have to take a break, but like, Albernaz, it is fair that, like, hey, he was a part of the Rays system that then led to a pennant winning team, but I mean, I feel like we are overlooking Phil Nevin, as I keep calling him Will, and we're 30 minutes in, and we haven't talked about him much. So
I mean, I'm not a Tigers guy, and I'm not an Angels guy. And I know it
but he
shouldn't
also
matter.
was he also was
about a
with
Yankee
he was
guy?
the third he was the third base coach for the Giants and the third base coach for the Yankees.
I'm not a Yankees guy either. Giants 100%.
All right. I mean, I don't know. It seems like a lot of different organizations like Phil Nevin, so we'll talk about him in a second. Let's let you know about our friends over at Shady Rays. Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. And you may say, hey, it's fall. Look how sunny it is behind us. You need sunglasses. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. They have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style. Plus, if your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, don't sweat it. They have the most insane protection program in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by lost or broken replacements. So exclusively for our listeners, you can check out their great deal Shady Rays is giving out at shadyrays.com. Use code CHGO for 35% off polarized sunglasses. That's code CHGO for 35% off polarized sunglasses at shadyrays.com. Try for yourself. These shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
They say that first impressions are important. What about lasting impressions? That's where Blue Chew comes in. Blue Chew helps you boost your confidence in the bedroom so you can stay hard and perform your very best. Blue Chew is an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost and in chewable form. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical professionals, and once you've been approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. I know you're asking, Herb, does it work? Do you think I need it? Well, try for free for a month and see. You're going to love it, and your partner's going to love it too. And we got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use promo code ALLCITY at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's BlueChew.com, promo code ALLCITY. It's ALLCITY to receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast.
Thank you very much, Herb. Let's get into some Phil Nevin here. I always thought he was the bench coach for Joe Madden. I was wrong. He was hired as third base coach. So that was not his job. So that's on me for clarifying. He replaces Joe Madden in 2022, around June 7th. Madden gets fired. And the biggest thing that stuck out to me in looking up Nevin's time with the Angels from 2022 to 2023, this is what Perry Manassian said once he spoke to the media after the firing of Nevin. This is from Sam Blum of The Athletic. It wasn't Nevin's fault. The team ended up in this position, so I don't see the reason to let him go. Oh, sorry. That was a current Angels player. It wasn't Nevin's fault. The team ended up in this position, so I don't see the reason to let him go. And Perry Manassian acknowledged the Angels let Nevin go for the sake of making a move, and we see that they win 73 games under Nevin, and then the next year they bring in Ron Washington, and it's worse than that. They lose 100 games for the first time in their franchise.
They also lost Shohei Ohtani.
That guy.
Yeah.
They also lost Shohei Ohtani, and Mike Trout was hurt again. So fair there.
And Anthony Rendon always hurt.
Yeah, I don't think he was even there in 2023. I don't think Phil Nevin missed him. I don't think Phil Nevin would rouse the crowd out of the 3 finalists. He is getting the least amount of votes from White Sox fans, but I don't think it's like a bad hire.
No.
If Phil Nevin is the worst that we get, we're getting somebody that has been highly thought of. There are some quotes that are saying like, hey, we have a big league manager here at the AAA level. He was thought of highly enough to be brought back in 2023 in the last year of Shohei Ohtani's contract. I don't think it would be the worst case scenario. I do think worst case scenario would be like Buck Showalter or Grady Sizemore. I think Nevin being 52, bouncing around and finally getting like a true opportunity, maybe he will be able to prove something. And also, too, to the people that say, oh, he's got a hard exterior and looks like a hard ass. I thought Pat Murphy, the guy from the Brewers, looked like the most fearful guy. That guy strikes fear into me. I would not want to have dinner with Pat Murphy of the Brewers, but he seems like a really good baseball coach. The Brewers are a really good baseball organization, and Pat Murphy stepped in and was a good manager. Like, as long as it's a good baseball organization, I don't think Phil Nevin is – baseball isn't foreign to him. He should be able to pick this up, right? I mean, it's mainly about the talent around him.
Yeah, I hear you. And, yeah, it wouldn't be the worst hiring the White Sox have done by far. it would just be disappointing because we've already talked about the two guys. There's only 2 jobs available, right now?
Correct.
So even if one of them takes a job, you got the other one available. And that would just then be a choice of the White Sox choosing Phil Nevin because they like him more. I think the manager experience probably puts him a leg up over the other 2 guys if you're looking for that. But yeah, it wouldn't be the worst managing hire the White Sox have had. Will I be disappointed? Yes, because I think the other 2 guys would be much better for the White Sox. But as you said, Pat Murphy is an example, a guy who was down there at Arizona State with a bunch of eventual Major League Baseball players that swear up and down about him. And now you can see with the Milwaukee Brewers, he is lauded as one of the great leaders. I think, Phil Nevin could work out, but when you got people I deem as better options, that would be the problem I would have. But I think the hiring would be like, okay, now that we're here, what are the bona fides? What are the positives of the Phil Nevin era in the White Sox uniform instead of lamenting? On the day he is hired, I will bitch. I'll be mad about missing out on the other 2 guys. But also then I'll be like, okay, it really doesn't matter who the manager is necessarily in these next 3 or 4 years because I think it's a transitional time. Now, can that guy get the most out of the players? We'll see.
I'll be mad mainly and really only if it comes out that Will Venable was their guy and he chooses Miami over Chicago. I think that would be the most frustrating scenario to deal with because then it's just Chris Getz not being able to sell his vision better than Peter Bendix.
I would look at that as we kind of look at the Zach Wheeler situation. You can't make him come here.
Yes, you can.
You can't.
I mean, like at least with Will Venable, I don't think his wife cares that much about Chicago or Miami. I mean, he's been in Chicago before.
Yeah,
I don't even know if he's married.
But if he chooses Miami over Chicago, and all things being equal, like it was in the Zach Wheeler situation, even though the Zach Wheeler situation where the White Sox had more money, you can't blame I would not blame the White Sox for him losing. Now, if it comes out that they were many dollars away from where the Miami Marlins ended up, yeah, I'll be mad.
But I mean, if it's same contract, same everything, and it's literally just I want to work in Miami over Chicago, that will make me upset.
Yeah,
I mean that will be disappointing.
But you don't see as a major league manager potential that the Miami Marlins situation, everything included, the owner, the stadium, the roster, everything included, is better than the White Sox situation.
The owner changes every 5 years.
Understood.
I think they've had 15 owners in my lifetime.
Understood.
I mean, Jerry Reinsdorf's been here for 44 years.
Stadium's better.
I don't know if the Marlins situation is better than the White Sox. The Marlins,
you have to be in the NL East.
I mean,
the AL Central is tough too. Now
the Marlins. The Marlins rip their roster to shreds every 5 years.
They do. They do, but they go to the playoffs before they do that. They're like, okay, let's make our wild card. Let's go for the World Series. We didn't get it. Cool. All you good players get off my team immediately. But maybe if you have a Will Venable that says, hey, let's not do that shit anymore or stuff. Sorry, I can't swear anymore. Don't do that stuff anymore. Then maybe they keep a couple players.
The Marlins have 27 open positions on openwork.com. There's some site where it's all the sports posting in Major League Baseball.
Teamwork Online.
There it is. And there's 27 positions currently posted for the Marlins. Like, they are purging their entire organization.
That's good.
Is it?
Yes.
I mean, the guy that just won Manager of the Year is gone.
That tells
because they were purging their organization, from my thought, because of the expensiveness of Schumacher's staff. That, to me, is not a good sign if I'm looking from the outside. And Venable and Skip, I'm assuming, have some sort of connection.
But look at Bendix's career. Like, grew up in Cleveland, so he knows cheapness. He understands what the Indians and / Guardians are. Spent all that time with Tampa, and he knows that money is not necessarily needed to win. So I think of purging of the whole team, and that's what I talk about all the time. When you come to a new team, if you're the baseball org guy and you don't want none of the stuff that came before you, good. Get rid of all of it and start anew. And I think this is good for the Marlins. If I was choosing a Major League Baseball team, White Sox or Marlins, I'm going the Marlins. I think it's a better opportunity out there in Miami. Yes, the division is always consistently better than what the AL Central is. AL Central's been on fire last couple of years, and this year in particular with 3 teams in the playoffs. I think I would choose the Marlins over the White Sox. And so unless the money's different and the conversations from the Marlins and the White Sox are so much that the Marlins are better situation, contract, and they talk better than what the White Sox are in conversations, there's no reason that I would be mad at the White Sox for losing Will Venable. I think that's a better job. I don't know why you would think it would differently.
I mean, the White Sox are just valued more than the Marlins. The Marlins are literally the least valuable team in all of Major League Baseball.
They just started. And they got more championships since I've been open my eyes
they got more
than
owners.
The White Sox.
I mean, who's going to be signing your checks tomorrow? I mean, what if in 2026 you got a completely new owner? I guess you could say that about Jerry, but I mean, Tony kind of put the cold water on that. You more just have to worry about Jerry passing away.
Beef. I mean, you're right there.
Oh, okay. Yes. So
you're right there.
If that's Will Venable's kind of thing,
Probably not.
Maybe that's what he's looking for. I don't know. It will be interesting to see how this all plays out. Obviously, stick tuned to the CHGO White Sox podcast. We are here live 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. So if there's any more news or any more trinkles of news in this White Sox managerial candidate search, we will have you updated. Let's move on to our guy, Colson Montgomery. He has wrapped up his second season in the Arizona Fall League with the Glendale Desert Dogs. In 11 games, 45 plate appearances, Montgomery had 10 hits.
That works.
2 doubles,
Mm-hmm.
3 homers, so 5 extra base hits out of his 10 hits. He had 10 walks, 6 strikeouts.
Let's go.
And he had 4 stolen bases to none caught stealing, a slash line, and let me know if this is good, 313, 511, 656.
It is good.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen numbers like that on a baseball score.
511 on base percentage.
According to this is a White Sox player?
Almost double his walks to the strikeouts, where that was a huge problem this year. Mercy.
That was the number to me that was the biggest eye popper during the season in which he struggled, was the fact that that on base percentage basically cratered from where it had been in his admittedly brief minor league play before that. I mean, he was getting on base at a 400 clip in the minor leagues before last season, and then last season that took a big hit, striking out all the time. The walks aren't there. You're wondering where did the mastery of the strike zone go? Because for me, it was always, yeah, okay, he can hit, maybe, but hitting comes and goes. You go through slumps kind of thing. At least you can ensure that you're going to continue to get on base and continue to be able to make stuff happen. Then last season happens, and it doesn't look like that anymore. That looks like that. Now, that's 11 games, 11 exhibition games, playing in a league where you've been before, and none of those other people, or fewer of those other people have, right?
Yeah.
So, obviously, big grain of salt, but they ended his time there early. That Arizona Fall League's still going on, but Colson is done. They did it to kind of make sure that he would end on a positive note. Boy, did he. So you pair that with the last little bit of the regular season, which was a big improvement for him offensively, even if it didn't do much to boost to the overall numbers. And I would have to imagine that Colson Montgomery is feeling pretty good going into the offseason.
What is the amalgamation of those players? Are they mostly AA, AAA players, single A players?
Oh, of Arizona Fall League. I mean, it's
Fall.
everyone. I mean, Matt McLean and Christian and Encarnacio Strand are playing. They're major leaguers.
Yeah, so he's playing versus a variety of players. Struggled at the AAA level this year, but went down there in the 11 games, and it's short sample size, and dominated. And I love the White Sox. Like, that's enough. We've seen enough. You got the taste that you need to see, and you saw the ball go through the hoop. Have your offseason. Enjoy your offseason, knowing that you can play at the level that you were at last year, and that's more than likely where you're going to start in AAA in 2025. But you got now your mind's clear. You got a little positive outlook going into the offseason instead of, man, I struggled this whole year, and that's 3 months into the offseason of you thinking, man, can I play baseball at that level?
All right, which one is worse? There's sample A and sample B. Okay. A 244 batting average.
Okay.
300 on base percentage, 415 slug, a 715 OPS. Sample B, 214 average, 329 on base, 381 slug. That's a 710 OPS. So OPS,
which one's worse?
Yeah,
the one on the ladder.
The latter one, B. Okay, but still 0.005 points off on OPS. That is Colson Montgomery's AFL last year compared to his AAA numbers. He was not that good in the AFL last year. And then he won the Fall-Star game and hit a home run off a lefty. And we're all like, whoa, this guy's awesome. I think there should be more excitement. I understand that this is his second time going around. It's in half the plate appearances. He had 90 last year when he hit 244, 300, and 415, only 45 this year. But the fact that there is pretty much no age differential between him and the average fall league player, it's 0.1 age difference. These are his peers,
yeah.
and he dominated. And I think the fact that he didn't dominate last year and he can make that improvement in the same competition pretty much. I mean, same group of players, not exactly like the exact, it's not, Jed Fish throwing him fastballs or whatever. Like it's the same kind of players. He thrived, and it's exciting just because that AAA run wasn't that exciting, but there's also a 4-year difference between him and AAA compared to the 0-year difference. So what would his second year look like at Charlotte? We saw that in September. He kind of found things a little bit more. It sucks that you have to take your time with players, especially when the White Sox have so little talent. But I don't think that this spark is dead. He's still a top 100 prospect. Maybe the top 15 assignment was a little bit too high.
Top 10
for Colson. Top 10 was a little bit too high for Colson. But it does show you the ceiling and just what's it called? Progression is not linear, as Rick Hahn would say.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to see him bounce back and really just not even take this on the chin. He destroyed it. He got an assignment. And even with the same, battered up legs that he had last year, he was able to improve on his numbers and have a great 45 plate appearances.
Well, and what did we hear from Paul Janisch at the end of the season describing the kind of year that Colson had and some of the challenges that he ran into? He talked about him like kind of having to deal with those emotions, right? Yeah. The idea that he was frustrated and mad at how he wasn't doing what he expected himself to do. And then that kind of compounded things and made it worse. So here he is, maybe learning to deal with what he went through a little better and turning it in to positive, saying, all right, I'm not going to get overwhelmed by the fact, or, eventually I'm not going to be overwhelmed by the fact that things didn't go the way I want them to. Learn to calm down, learn to focus a little bit, and maybe turn that into positive results.
I mean, in that baseball, I would think that's the first time in his major league and minor league or major league or professional career or a high school career that he's had failure. Like, probably didn't have failure as a basketball player, didn't have failure as a high school baseball player, and then you run into that. You're like, the hell? I've been good at baseball forever. That's probably going to be good for him in his career going forward, knowing that baseball is a game of failure, and it's not how you're gonna fail, it's how you get out of that failure and how you deal with the failure that you're having and lessen it, and not, as Vinny said, double down like, oh, I'm mad, and then the madness and the emotion drives you to more failure, instead of, okay, how do I get out of this? How do I navigate my way out of this and stay the same person, do the same drills, knowing that eventually it'll work out, just by the numbers, because I'm a talented person.
And that's hard to do. Major leaguers struggle with that all the time. Yeah. That's not like it's like, all right, you got to figure out how to do that before you can advance. That's a hard thing to do for people at any level.
Yeah, and to be fair, too, Beefloaf bringing up Adam Engel's AFL MVP. Colson didn't even win that award. I mean, he's not even as good as Adam Engel, if we want to put it that way. He just won the Fall Star MVP. He's the who's the Colorado Rockies catcher? Yanier Diaz. He's the 22. You weren't here for that All-Star game.
Oh yeah.
No.
So then
doesn't that guy play for the
Padres now?
The Astros?
You're
thinking of Ezekiel Tovar, perhaps?
No. It was the Rockies.
Elias Diaz.
The Rockies catcher made the.
Elias Diaz.
Yeah, Elias
that guy.
Diaz.
He was the All-Star in 2023 for the Rockies.
Yeah.
Like, why? And then he got released this year by the Rockies, and that makes sense.
Colson is our Elias Diaz.
Gotcha.
So there you go. So and
that's how good he's going to be.
That's
it means he'll make an All-Star team. That's pretty good.
To Justin in the chat saying, I think Montgomery is breaking with the club. I would definitely. No, I don't think he's going to be on the club. They're going to sign a veteran shortstop similar to DeYoung, and with the fact that he struggled so much at AAA, I think they want to have him prove it to himself that he is ready for Major League Baseball. I think it's all about building up his confidence. I think the talent is there to have him be a major leaguer. Like, I think that's what I'm confident about Colson is he'll reach to the major leagues. Like we'll see what happens once he gets there. I think the biggest thing for him is making sure that he feels like he earned it and not just, I'm joining a 121 loss team because, they have no one else to play shortstop.
And to what Justin brought up there, like Montgomery could tear up Arizona next year in spring training. What's to say he can't just be on the Knights for 3 weeks? You know what I mean? Like, there's whether even if he doesn't make the opening day roster, even if they sign a veteran shortstop to be the shortstop as the season begins, if Montgomery's tearing up Charlotte, bring him up in May. And then what? There's no harm, no foul. What do you lose from your Paul DeJong-esque shortstop having to retreat to a reserve role? Nothing. Yeah. But at the same time, there's no rush to get Montgomery up here. We're not expecting them to be contending for anything.
Do you think, and I know the White Sox didn't telegraph this, do you think that they, like, this is what the plan was supposed to be? Like, have success, we're going to get you out as soon as you give enough success at the AFL and just yank you out, have you with a good feeling. Like, because it seems like it was planned that he would get out of the AFL if he did have this type of showing in the 11 games that he did have.
I'm sure they thought about it. Yeah. I'm sure it was results dependent or dependent on how he was feeling, that kind of thing. But yeah, I'm sure that was in the plans, if not the plan all along.
And I've always felt like he will have a similar plight to Tim Anderson. Tim being the last first rounder they took, that was a shortstop in 2013. He didn't make his major league debut until 3 years after his year being selected in 2016, and he started kind of iffy in Charlotte to start 2016. In his first 12 games, he had a 170 average, and then in the next 40 games, he hit 340 like Tim, and then was called up in June. Like, I mean, that could be. White Sox have no rush with any prospect at all. Like, make sure that they're ready. I think Caro even too. Like, I feel like we could probably say that Caro should be at least with Corey Lee on opening day, but
if it doesn't have to be.
Right. If they're like, oh, well, he got set back because of his September back injury and they leave him in Charlotte just to start and they call up Caro in Montgomery and make it a whole day at Guaranteed Rate Field.
They call them both up on the same day?
Wow. Let's go.
Don't they have their own separate days where they can just have a pop?
No, we'll let them both run out on the field.
But you could sell twice as many tickets if you bring them up separately.
That's fair. And that's thinking like Jerry Reinsdorf. Kopech and Moncada?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. And then, hey, an inning after Kopech pitches, he gets rained out and never shows up again. Awesome.
Oh, God.
Oh, it was a great day. All right, let's get into some Discord chats. Let's also plug, too, we do have an introductory offer for you. If you are looking to get Vinny's writing up at allchgo.com, we want you to check out allcity.com/intro for $4 a month, $48 on the year. You can get a shirt of your choice. You can get access to Vinny's articles. You can join our CHGO Discord lounge where you can chat with us, fellow fans alike, about all Chicago sports. And we are trying to build something here at CHGO. So if you are a diehard, you are hanging out with us every single day, check out allchgo.com/intro. Appreciate it. Hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribed to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. We got Bulls coming. We got a Bulls show coming up. And yesterday we had Bulls and Bears, or Bulls and Hawks pre and post game for you. So if you are
it's that time of year,
they all won,
for a place
too.
If you're looking for a place to watch, we got you covered here at CHGO. Let's head to the diehard Discord. Our guy B-Dams asking, is Oscar Colas's White Sox career over?
It's a great question. You sent these to us earlier, and I'm like, wow, that is becoming just so interesting because we heard this time a year ago, last offseason, that, hey, door's not closed on him. He could impress us and come up and get that chance, and he never did. Yes, he was on the Major League roster briefly when there was an injury, but he basically didn't play, and then there was nothing. There was no chance from the rest of the year. And at Charlotte, not terrible. Not like he was doing, really badly down there. So I don't know. I would think that this guy in a rebuild would be worth a shot.
Mm-hmm.
But that he never got that shot really kind of says a lot, I think. And we'll find out what happens because he's still part of the organization, obviously. But, for him to never come up last year while they were starting some of the guys that they were starting out there, I mean, you could go back to what we've talked about, the idea that, hey, Chris Getz went out and traded for Dominic Fletcher. He wanted to give him some runway. Sure, okay. But then, give some DH at bats to Colas or something. But, very, very interesting. And we might not know more in terms of him and what the plans they have for him are till we are in Arizona in February. But you can bet that that's going to be asked because that is an interesting one.
I mean, the writing's on the wall. Like, after what Vinny said last year, what the White Sox said about Oscar Colas, They went and traded for Zach DeLoach. They went and traded for Dominic Fletcher. They signed Tommy Pham. They signed Robbie Grossman. They signed Corey Jolks. Like, the writing's on the wall.
And none of those guys required the sort of investment that they have already made in Oscar Colas.
Yeah, so it seems like for some reason, I saw him play, that he is not going to be a White Sox starter or even thought of in the future, which is fine. But also, it's like, this guy he was literally the starter a year and a half ago. Now he's not anything on a team that lost 121 games. I think if you look at all those guys that the White Sox still have, he has the best power profile, which this team lacks of. I would just, maybe think about giving him some at-bats. But we already know, as I have talked about before, when you trade for somebody, especially you trade away Christian Mena, you're probably going to want that guy to succeed, and especially that guy doing so well defensively in right field in Dominic Fletcher.
Colas did not have some great numbers according to StatCast's minor league search. His whiff percentage was the same in 2023 as it was in 2024. His exit velocity was pretty similar, 88.4 compared to 89. His launch angle, 9 degrees to 11 degrees, and the distance, that ball went the same amount of feet on average. It seems like the same player, and maybe this is a player that could develop with a different swing, could develop with a certain change to that path, but it seems very much like Eloy Jimenez, and we dealt with that for 5 years, and we see what that ended up to be. He didn't even make the Orioles playoff roster. So I think it's probably needed to be a fresh breath air for Colas.
I like that.
And I think maybe we'll see some swap of him and someone else.
You should keep that. You should put that on a shirt.
Yeah, thank you. Our guy Luke, who's in the chat now, and hey, he mentions Beefloaf, who's also in the chat. Section 108 was talking about trading minor league pitching prospects for hitting prospects. Would that make sense to you guys? Specifically, I believe Luke is talking about trading Noah Schultz to the Cubs for a Matt Shaw.
No. They're not trading Noah Schultz at all.
Okay.
There's that. But my answer to the broader question is no, too. I don't think they're there yet. I think you do that once you get further down the road in this rebuild and you identify where your holes are. Right now, they're in the early stages. They just need all the guys they can get. And so I don't think they're in any sort of position to say, we don't need all these young pitchers. No, you need them until you don't need them, and then you still probably need them. But the idea being that they don't know where they're going to be the next time they plan to be contending, right? So why would you deal from a position of strength at this point? Keep it a strength. Try to build up strength in the other parts of the organization as well. But yeah, I don't see that happening right now.
I would see that for that player, no. But I be opposite of Vinny. I'm like, I would trade from a position of strength to even out the team because there's really not a lot of offensive everyday players the White Sox have. Now, could they get those players developed in the draft? Yeah, but that'll take years. If you can get a guy of Matt Shaw or Owen Casey's stature, yes, but also you don't want a big-time prospect like that, Noah Schultz, who's doing what he's doing in the minor leagues right now, to be on the north side and see his career go the way it's going to go, because we see that that's a bright star.
Luke wants me to be clear that he doesn't want Matt Shaw. He wants Moises Ballesteros or Owen Casey. So at least
they're not trading Noah Schultz, Luke. Don't worry about it.
And to be fair to Treasy and Beefloaf, they do this every single year. They try to make a trade with every single team. It's creative. I think it's just not you get put in a box when you're dealing with the 2024 White Sox, and the only people that they will trade, I think, are Crochet and Robert. And then it gets tough to be like, hey, should we trade Robert or Crochet to this person? So at least being creative. I think Shaw would come here in Chicago if he was a part of a Crochet package. I've talked that through with Ryan and Cody. They seem fine with it. So, hey, maybe Chris Getz can make that call.
And you guys are the GMs, so there you go.
Right. But the big thing and the whole idea was like, well, what can we expect from Noah Schultz? Right? He hasn't really popped off with the innings. We saw the interesting schedule. His goal was 75 to 100 innings. He got to 88. And I looked up what Paul Skeens was throwing when he was 20 years old. Noah Schultz won't be 21 until August 5th of this coming year. Skeens, when he was 20 at Air Force, threw 85 innings. So, he's on track with a college arm. That's what you have to look at Noah Schultz at. They picked him out of high school because they really liked the profile. And the profile through 244 is basically Randy Johnson. And the fastball shape isn't there yet, but I mean, they also said that about Paul Skeens' fastball shape, and it turned out fine, folks. So I think Schultz would be a no trade, just a complete no trade and non-starter on that. That's going to do it for the CHGO White Sox podcast. That's Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. That's Herb Lawrence, our CHGO White Sox community leader. I'm Sean Anderson. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 4 p.m. here on the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. Goodbye.
We all silly like the mayor.